up in the offensive end. Halpert up ahead for Leifer. Leifer open for throws the alley for Terrell. Oh my goodness!
All right, welcome back to another edition. Your final score, the Farmingdale State Rams 80 and Yeshiva University Maccabees 69. I'm here with Shua Cohn and Jack Terrell. Guys, not the result that we wanted tonight. Your overall thoughts, Jack, we'll kick it off to you.
I think I was a little bit more pessimistic as the game ended. As you know, we seem to struggle to get offense if it's not Zevi Samet shooting contested threes. I think Farmingdale had, the coach is an excellent coach. He's, one of the best in D3, I would say. I would argue, honestly. And he's seen the motion for 6 to 8 years now, however long they've been running it. So, he's as prepared as any coach and we tend to play Farmingdale a lot. It's playoffs, finals. We see him. This is a real rivalry, and he has real experience coaching against this team. And so there's bonuses to believing in what you do and doing things that work, and there's negatives. And the negatives is when facing especially if you have a new team, facing a team that's well coached and well prepared. I was going to come in pessimistic, but I'd have to say I'm pretty optimistic, actually. This is a team that beat us last year. Our best player shot 28 shots, 31 shots. That's a good sign. Like, you want your best guy taking a lot of shots, and none of it was forced. A couple of them were jacked up, but it wasn't like high volume player usage, right? It wasn't like everyone was standing around as Zevi was just shooting. He was getting, shots. And I think there's a lot to take away that we could work on. We only lost by 11. And I think hopefully we could fine tune some things. I think bringing Max back to have a true point guard on the team. I think Adi Markovic is excellent, but he's more of an off guard. I just think he's more of an off guard. That's just my opinion. Other people may differ in that opinion. But yeah, Shua, what do you think?
Yeah, similar lines to what Jack is saying. I mean, first of all, just to set the stage right, we did not expect this team to be amazing this year. We expected it to be a rebuilding year. We expected for them to for sure early on to struggle while they're gaining an understanding of the offense and all that. And Farmingdale is obviously a tough opponent. They hadn't looked that good this year, but they always play us really tough. I mean, like Jack was saying, they 16-17, we beat them in the semifinals. They were the favorite. We eked out that victory in overtime. Then 17-18 was the year that they maybe 17-18 was the year we beat them in the semifinals. 18-19, they played us really tough. They beat us towards the end of the season, 10 our winning streak. They also beat us in the finals. And even 19-20 in the semifinals, I don't know if you remember that game before, we went off on the first two tournament games, but semifinals, that was a very, very close game that they were up. I think they were up by a decent amount in the second half, and by 6, I think. Gabe hit a couple big shots. We hit a couple big shots down the stretch, and we pulled it out. But we were at risk of not even making the tournament in 19-20 when the team that ultimately went 29-1. And again, they played us tough last year. They beat us last year. If you remember, the second one right in the back-to-back losses in the late stretch. And we were very nervous about facing them in the playoffs. We ultimately didn't, because I think Manhattanville knocked them out before that. Okay. And again, they're well coached, and they play a style of defense that I haven't seen us deal well with in any team that's played that style against us. And that's basically sag off non-shooters. Absolutely ignore them. Ignore them in the high post. Ignore them when they're outside the 3-point line. It's like the Tony Allen defense in the playoffs.
Right.
So, and when that happens, you have a man who's sitting under the basket, and that just kind of just destroys all of the backdoor action that YU runs so much during motion offense, it's just irrelevant. You could set the best screen and have completely surprise the defender and have a guy running backdoor, and there's just a defender waiting there under the basket to meet him. So all of those actions are kind of null. So
that's half the offense.
Yeah, and what we see is there aren't really adjustments where they continue running them, and it just wastes time and is frustrating for the players. And then you can see they kind of don't really know what to do. We saw it last year against Johns Hopkins, and we saw it in this game. And I think figuring out an adjustment when teams play that, I'm shocked more teams don't play that exact style of defense against us. I don't understand it because it clearly works every time we face it. Right. But well, we'll stick to offense. But yeah, those were my general thoughts. I thought Zevi obviously played admirably, given that they put a bigger guy on him and really stuck with him. He was exhausted, but yeah, no one else really stepped up.
I got to say, Hurwitz on Farmingdale, that guy's a stud. He did a number on us last year, and he did it again tonight. He did it again tonight.
Horowitz. Yeah,
Hurwitz. It sounds Jewish. Jack, it sounds Jewish either way.
I did. I remember I ran into him last year, and I was at the game. I forgot. I was the one that we played Old Westbury at Farmingdale, and I saw him. I was like, Horowitz. I turned around. I was like, "You Jewish, man?" He's like, "Nah." I'm like, "Damn." I was like, "Never mind. Just come here anyway." He started laughing. And everyone started laughing. But Horowitz is look. A couple things defensively. First off, we need to be better defensively. I mean, Zevi's coming right from the base, and he's got to up his stamina. Obviously, kudos to Farmingdale for making him work so damn hard on the offensive end. So then when it came to the defensive end, he already isn't right at this moment a good defender. He's not. He's on his best night. He's about average, and the coaching staff will tell you that. I'm not knocking the kid. I'm just telling the truth. And when you make him work that hard on the offensive end, you just see him. He was huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf. He was ready to blow a house down. He got tired, and he's a freshman. It's his fourth game, and it's okay. It really makes you come to appreciate some of the athletes that we've had in years past. When you see, but I just, how do you leave a Horowitz open at all? Like, just defensively, it's not like what they're running is so sophisticated that, damn, we just keep getting knocked on picks. It's usually just a driving kick. Horowitz killed us last year. We know what he does. I mean,
it's not just limited to him. The whole team made a big shot when it counted. They're just so experienced.
But they were wide. They were wide open.
Wide open.
There was no one
towards the end. Yeah, exactly.
But even the whole game, right? Like, if the YU's defense is built around stopping the middle drive, right? So what happens is, like, especially against Farmingdale, our primary defender on the ball got beaten off the dribble without even a second player being a part of the action, like straight off the dribble. And so then he gets into the paint there. YU doesn't have like a big who can like erase shots, kind of like Jordan was last year. They usually need to collapse the defense to help off of the drive and to take away the easy dump off for a layup. And when they collapse the defense, it's just an easy kick to like multiple wide open shooters. We saw that when they don't collapse defense, it's just a dump off to the runner, to the roll guy, and it's an easy layup. And we saw both of them.
Zucker's got to step up and take that charge. That's happened way too often where Zucker steps off and he stops the drive and he dumps it off. If he just takes two more steps forward at the point where he wants to take off and takes the charge, that could prevent it. But even so, you can't sag off Horowitz. You can't give him wide open threes. And lastly, this team was devoid of energy tonight. With Samet huffing and puffing, we were really struggling to get shots. Oren, I think, needs to shoot a lot more. Dotan took him, so I got to give him credit. Obviously, he's got to knock him down. Why not play Natkin a little bit more? Like, forgive me if I'm saying this, but like, what happens to a battery when it runs out of juice? You need to put in a charging pack. Give me some. He gets in. The first thing that happens, he gets thrown on the floor. They draws a technical, like starts talking.
Then he was suddenly taken out again.
Well, yeah, I mean, that changes the whole identity. If Farmingdale's is punching you, you throw in your puncher. Give your team a little charge in the tuchus. I'm not saying playing him against every matchup. I'm not saying he's the most polished player. He's not. I thought he got a good shot in. It's just, I just think, I don't know. That was just a tough one. I think there needs to be some kind of adjustment. And if I'm Zucker also, I'm shooting 500 mid-range free throw line jump shots all week and just saying this shot right here is going to be automatic because I'm not letting you guys do that again.
Right.
I feel like it's just not that simple, right? Shaq wanted to shoot free throws better, and I guarantee, but thousands and thousands. If you're not a good, Zucker's not a good shooter. He's just not, and you could hit them. I guarantee he hits tons of them in practice. I bet you shoots like 60-70% from there in practice. When it's in a game, it's just a different. You get in your head, they're leaving you so open. It's just not. Gabe got that mid range his whole career, and he never took them. When he did, he usually missed them.
Gabe again, speculation. We don't know exactly. Objection, Your Honor, speculation. We don't know exactly what Matan Zucker was thinking during the game. But I would argue also Gabe Leifer wasn't a known gym rat. Like he one of the famous things is how is this guy so good and he's never lifted a weight or shot a jump shot in the gym. I think if you shoot 300 of those shots, it becomes an extension. And Shaquille O'Neal is another good example of someone who wasn't also a known gym rat, someone who was, I'm sure he worked on it, but some of the biggest contentions he's had with teammates was his lack of or one specific teammate was his lack of effort in the extracurriculars of doing, working on that game. So, I mean, I would shoot a ton of them. Not to say that would, it's not guaranteeing to help to give you validity to your point. It's not guaranteeing that becomes a natural shot, but definitely can't hurt.
Yeah, no, that I agree.
We just got to figure out how to get points. If it's not Salmon, we can't be a team that relies on one guy to score 40 points to win. It's not going to work.
No.
Yeah.
I was also thinking after tonight, did it benefit YU to be playing Farmingdale this early in the season? Would they have been better off getting them later on? I mean,
yes, because I want to play the team. Theodore Roosevelt has a famous quote. I always like being underestimated. I play better as the underdog. Like I'm better when, the expectations are low. Whatever. I forget the exact quote. Someone will probably correct me. But if anything, I want Farmingdale. We gave them a good fight. And we only lost by 11. And it was a 5-point game. We probably played our worst half. Zevi got shots. He just missed them, right? We ran the offense pretty well. We just missed some layups. We missed some shots. Oren missed some. We missed some shots. We just missed some shots. And Zach Hine's not back. We're in game 4 of the season shape-wise, in terms of being safe. Zevi in the playoffs and some of these guys in the playoffs are going to be in much better shape. There's going to be a much more fluid understanding. We're still figuring out what lineups to play. We're still in that mode. So I'd rather give Farmingdale this early look. Let him feel like we beat this team that's super good and held, Samet to poor shooting when, we don't have a finalized product. I'd rather the opponent taste us at our weakest and get a false sense of confidence. I'd rather that rather than we play them down the line and we beat them in a tight game and now we're the ones coming tight. Now air's left out of the balloon. We got nothing to lose next time we play them. So I'm excited for that.
Right, and that next time won't be until the last game of the season. They play Farmingdale.
What do you think, Shua?
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's also right. It's good to get that barometer against ultimately, our goal is win Skyline this year. That's the team you're realistically going to need to beat to win Skyline. So it's good to get that understanding of the level.
Yeah, or team we're playing in the final.
Yeah, but likely, right? We thought that was going to happen last year, and then some of them lost in Handmill. But yeah, so I don't mind them playing it early, and I also think it's they outplayed expectations, outperformed expectations through the first 4 games. And this was more like a come back down to earth. It wasn't like they were the overdog going into the season, right? They were voted to finish 4th in Skyline.
Right.
Which I think underestimated Zevi Samet, but Farmingdale is definitely a tough opponent, and they know our game, and they have a game plan to address it. They had a great game plan this time, and they executed and they played really well. And we didn't really look like we were the better team for most of the game.
I mean, they made Sammy work. They made Sammy work. I think if you're the coaching staff, you take a look at that, or you're the players or the scouts, you go, how we got to either we weren't setting screens into motion, or Samit was rushing a little too early and probably needed to be patient, wait a second or two before the screen hit. But we got to figure out ways to, if he's going to be busting his tochas defensively, which it is usually, he's not usually guarding a scrub. Any wing player at this level is usually pretty good. Got to figure out ways to not have him work so hard on the other end. We got to figure out ways to not. He was working, and kudos to Farmingdale. I mean, they really came with a scout. They're like, hey, listen, teams make the mistake when they play Yeshiva. They go, either when they did in the Sweet 16 run, they went, they're Yeshiva, we're going to play our game, and that'll be it. And then the motion kills you, because if you're not aware of it, you'll get killed. Or they go, well, they just lost Ryan, Gabe, Eitan, and Ofek. Well, we're going to play our game, and then the motion kills you. And Farmingdale goes, we've been killed by the motion. They know what's coming. They're going to set a lot of they're going to look for the back cuts. They're going to set the down screens. Everything's off ball. They look for this one guy, Zevi. They had a scout, and they sagged off Zuck. I think we went on a little run there with the shooters in. I mean, I think the fun thing about this team is a lot of lineups to try. We're nowhere near a finished product, and we played this team extremely well. We fought really hard, and I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, really, an 11-point loss. Well, we're in the game for a majority of the game. We kind of get slipped at the end when there's a bit of a run, but we fight pretty hard back. Well, we don't really know our we're still tinkering. We're still tinkering with the toy right now. The car's not ready to go off the lot and enter the contest yet. So I'm excited to see what this car looks like in February.
Right. You actually got me thinking with one of the points you just made. Illinois Wesleyan, for example, when Zevi was cooking against them, they only got to watch one game of film with him playing against St. Joseph, Connecticut. And he didn't really go off in that game all that much. And then the last two games, Zevi goes off, and Farmingdale really had a lot more footage to study up on Zevi compared to Illinois Wesleyan. So I don't know what that.
Look, one of the things that we saw so many Twitter, like Zevi, greatest freshman, and he very well might be. But one of the things that Ryan made look so easy was getting points despite being scouted every night. And that could be because of Ryan's size and the Division III level. He was bigger than most of the other team's big men at 6'7" and 200. He was certainly bigger than the big men that played in my era. He's definitely bigger than the wings. Right.
He's definitely usually have to guard him. You can't put a big.
Sometimes he's bigger than the bigs. And even if the bigs are bigger, he's certainly quicker. So, I mean, the size definitely helped. Ryan made it look very easy. It's hard. It's hard. This is high level basketball. We get a little bit taken for granted how good some of these players are that we've had the last couple of years. You just kind of see. I'll tell you right now, Zevi Salmon is the real deal. It is no, he's still at 20, 31 points tonight. They made him work. It's hard to score it. It's hard. This is a high level basketball. It's a good basketball team. So he's got to. What I want to bring to the point I'm trying to make is we got to understand that he is going to be. There's going to be a scout for him, and there's going to be a plan for him. And really, what we need to see is like, what's our counter punch, right? Like if you're a boxer and you're going inner uppercut every time, and then he sees it and he hits you. I'm not a boxing guy, but like he has a counter to that and he sees it coming. So then once he's done that, what's your second move? What's the second move, right? Or if you're a post-up player and you're going over the middle hook, might cut that off. Do you have the drop step? So what are we going to throw teams? How are we going to get Zevi? Now it could be we just, and I'd love to talk it with the godfather of the motion on Thursday, the Harold Katz podcast, to see what he has to say on whether or not we ran the eye. It could be that I'm an untrained eye.
Maybe we'll be coming off a win.
I'll make a prediction. The answer will be we didn't run correct.
Yeah, but yeah. So then in that case, maybe Zevi needs to wait a second or two before he runs off the screen. Maybe he shouldn't be sprinting. He should be waiting, then sprinting when he sees the open, like pick his spots to exert the energy. There's got to be a way to preserve him, as he's our primary source of offense. And we need to get other guys going. I mean, Oren Batesh needs to shoot more than 5 shots. He just does. He's shown this season that he's a vital part of our offensive, strategy. Even if he's not hitting, like he wasn't necessarily hitting last game, even 7 was good. But in a game like this where no one else is scoring, he needs to shoot 5 to 10. He just needs to shoot more threes. More volume threes for a shooter like that is a good thing, especially in a system that relies primarily on post ups and threes. That's like and backdoor. That's really the 3 ways that we've gotten points. So so our second best 3-point shooter needs to shoot more.
So let me ask you about a moment in the game, kind of like in-game coaching strategy, what you think. So we cut the lead to 60-54 with 6 minutes and 6 seconds left.
Yeah.
And they went on a run, and we didn't call timeout until it was 69-54. And then we called timeout, and the game was it was over by that point.
Yeah.
A little earlier in the game, Farmingdale would stretch the lead. We'd cut it. They'd call timeout. It happened twice in a row before that cut to 60-54. Their coach would call timeout as soon as we went on a run, kind of restabilize, and they'd play better out of it. And the same thing happened when we cut it down. When we cut it down to 6, I think if I look, I think he called the timeout then. But we kind of the game was basically over by the time we called the timeout. Yeah, they called the timeout when it was 60-51. When it was 50,
timeouts.
So do you think that, first of all, besides for the fact that it just gives them a breather, but also, do you think there's a detriment to just like when clearly they're losing control and playing too fast or whatever, to like calling timeouts steady them? Or do you think just because the motion offense isn't really set plays or anything like that just let them do it?
Phil Jackson was. I happen to think Statments is probably one of the best things, if not the best thing he does better than any coach I've ever seen, is placement of timeouts. He's excellent usually at that. Yeah, Ryan Terrell will second that. Ryan Statments is excellent with timeout placements, and I happen to be a fan of letting him play through it. I grew up watching Phil Jackson and the Lakers in that run. And that's what Phil did. I mean, Phil let the guys figure it out. He did not call timeouts. And some coaches are different. Larry Brown, Popovich, Larry Brown called timeouts and try to make adjustments. It's again, I think it goes. You probably hit it on the point. It goes with the culture of trusting your guys, and you have to live with the success and with the failure. You have to let them figure it out. And emotion is an offense that gives so much power to the players that you really can't. You could call a timeout. I think it might have been a good idea to call a timeout here or there just to give Zabby and some of the boys some rest, or figure out a way to straggle. Maybe I take Zabby out and put an energy guy like Mackin in to like keep. Maybe we don't have the talent in, but we have kind of like this frantic, energetic, scary, not scary, but like killer kind of guy in there that's going to give us a little, whatever it is, it's something. And while Zabby recuperates and we put that back in, I wouldn't, but I don't know if necessarily the timeout placement was a result of some of these things. Not
enough to have an impact on the loss.
Yeah, no, I think in general, Statments does an excellent job with timeouts, and he's just the kind of coach that, has guys play it out, whereas the Farmingdale guy is someone who may, he calls timeouts. But kudos to him. You have to come with an adjustment out of a timeout, and not all coaches do that. And every time you call a timeout, the Farmingdale coach, who's excellent, he had an adjustment. He had a game plan ready to go. Also helps you have your guys returning, but, they still have to execute.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point.
No, but I definitely see what you're saying. I was wondering the same thing, but I didn't question it. I was definitely wondering it though.
Some coaches. I'm a believer. I never call timeouts, and to my detriment as an 8th grade coach, which is obviously a much lower level. But I do Stamets does know when to call timeouts. He's just the kind of coach that lets them play through it. There's people who believe in that. There's people who don't.
Okay, so we move on to Purchase Tuesday night. It's a road game. I believe it's Purchase's first Skyline game. They're actually 500. They opened up with 2 wins, but they've lost their last 2. What should we expect going into that one?
I haven't done a deep dive on Purchase. I noticed that their 2 wins were against pretty poor opponents.
Right,
and their 2 losses were not against much better opponents.
Right.
So they haven't looked very good this year. But to be fair, Farmingdale didn't look that great this year. I mean, they got destroyed by NYU and then had a very close win against an opponent that wasn't that highly ranked.
Right.
And then they looked superb against us. I think Farmingdale, we expect it to be a fight. Purchase, historically, we've been pretty handily for the most part in the recent era. I'm not too concerned with them going into that game, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jack?
I think we're gonna bounce back. I think the coach is gonna take a look at this tape, and we got more lineup tinkering to deal with. We're gonna play some new stuff, or that's a positive. I think Zevi's gonna bounce back. I don't think he has 2 bad games in a row. I think his Saturday night game might be tough.
There's plenty of them all year. So
well, I'll tell you why. Ryan made this point while he was playing. He said, when I was for Ryan, you guys don't remember, I do, struggled early on Saturday night games because the Shabbos meal, right? A Shabbos meal is no pre-workout meal, my friend. It is typically consist of deli rolls,
bring out the cholent theory,
fried chicken, pastrami slices, and salads, but not like salads. Salads is the cornbread and the chopped up, and it's a heavy meal. And if Ryan by his junior and senior year would had to skip out on all the Shabbos goodies and have a cold cut sandwich, have a turkey club, and miss out on the Shabbos goodness. Look, I'm not blaming it on the diet, but there's also, like, Shabbos is a long day. You have to time your naps. You have to time, there's a lot of time to think about the game. Sometimes that throws guys off because you think about it too much. You go through your regular day and you're in your class at 4, you're watching your Netflix at 2, you're watching your pregame mixtape, you're getting your stretching in, whatever your regular routine is, it stays routine. Shabbos could be more difficult because you have this excess amount of time, and the diet thing that goes on, you get the cholent out. So yeah, I think he's going to bounce back, obviously. And I think I'd like to see more Natkin, just because it gives us something interesting. He's a lot like, from what I hear behind the scenes, he's a lot like me when I was that age, a little bit, high energy, willing to kill someone in a practice scrimmage. Like, we'll kill you, we'll fight right now. And maybe needs
Jack, you're willing to kill someone?
There's levels, Shua. There's levels to where you're willing to go on a court, especially when you're young and, like, this is everything. Like, this is, and you're not probably. I wasn't as talented as the other guys. I was more athletic, but I was also skinnier. So that, like, to compete, I had to mentally go to a place that was like, I'm going to go here, and you're not going to go there, and I'm going to go there, and I'm just going to bring that fire. And I think Natkin's a lot like that. I'd like to, so obviously I'm rooting for a guy like that. I'd like to see some of that. And I'm interested to see, like, I'd like to see different things thrown out at the point guard position. I think we're right now, I don't know. I'm curious to see what else we got in the tank. I like it. We're still figuring it out. So I'm looking forward to this team. And at the end of the day, we play Farmingdale excellent, with Samet shooting poorly and us not really getting great shots. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we come out of punch Purchase. Go ahead, Oren.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting dynamic going forward, because while you're also balancing Skyline play, you still have a lot of important non-conference games, and you have to take them seriously. You have to take the Amherst game seriously. You have to take the NYU game seriously. Wesleyan, number 22 team in the country right now. So I think that's going to be very interesting. We'll see if Steinmetz.
I think we're gonna. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see if Steinmetz keeps the usual starters out game in, game out, or will he change things up every so often for a non-conference tilt?
I need Markovich to take better care of the ball, and this has been a knock on him for years. And he's been pretty good at it this season. He had no turnovers in one of these games. I forget which one, but he's done better. But again, a little bit, tonight's a night where, you're a leader. This is a big game. Take care of the possession.
Yeah, and if you remember the game, he only had one turnover, I think, on the box score, but he had multiple very close to turnovers that weren't where he got the ball stripped from behind. He threw the ball; it was batted back to him. There were quite a few of like near turnovers, like they call them in football when a quarterback like an interception worthy throw where the guy drops it. So those are going to be turnovers. So I think the only reason he had only one was he got lucky.
No, exactly. I mean, he's done an excellent job this season in shoring that up. But if you're going to be the starting point guard on a championship team in Division III, right, there can't be these close calls, because that way, especially the motion, the cut was there, it got fumbled, you missed it, right? There's a miss on a back. It's got to be a little crisper. And it's a fair criticism to a guy I really love and admire as a person. It's not personal. But yeah, it's just got to continue on improving that. That's got to be shored up. That's, if I were to criticize one thing, I think that's where it would come from.
And to Oren's point, I think actually like the more likely scenarios that, or what should happen, is that there are some Skyline teams who the game should look like the St. Joseph's Brooklyn game.
Right.
And there, like even in that game, Zevi still played a large amount of that game. And that, I don't think that's excused. That I don't think should happen. And that's where I think they should get their rest, is when they're up big. And this time, honestly, we see like the end of the bench seems to be able to hold it together a little better than in previous years. So you shouldn't have to necessarily worry about just losing the lead. But I think if you're up 20 with 10 minutes left against some of these opponents, your starter shouldn't see the court again.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think the reason was Zevi going as long as he did the other night was, the home debut, pleasing the crowd. You were on the verge of 40 points.
Well, he also needs to get reps in. I understand Shua's point, and I also understand the opposite point. And there's really two schools of thought on it, and two and a half. The one is Shua's right. You can't risk your starters getting hurt. That's what happened with Lasco. Lasco had a really good start
when they were blowing it out. Yeah,
and he blew his knee, and he came back, and it was an awkward fit. And then we had also, it just was an awkward fit, and it never seemed normal again. And he wasn't good again until the Stockton game. It took a while for him to get back into it. Luckily, he came to play in the right moment. But you don't want to risk that. But the second school of thought, and it's really 2.5, is you want to get reps for your guys, especially when they're young, when they're this young, and especially when they're going to need to play mega minutes. You want to get them used to playing mega minutes. If Zevi Salmon's going to need to play however minutes he played tonight, like, because they needed him to.
Right.
So in a game where they don't necessarily need him, it's good to at least have him out there playing defense, running back and forth, getting into shape, the old-fashioned way. So I hear both sides. It's tricky. I think if you had a team, I think it depends on the team. So, like, if you have a Ryan Terrell who's in an OFEC and guys who are in the best shape and the best athletes, you sit them, right? You sit them up 20. You let the other guys play because you could trust, especially if they're seniors. You let these guys, they got the reps, they know what they're doing. You sit them. But I understand the argument if you have all freshmen still learning to play together, needing as many reps as they need. I see that side too. So it's really I hear both arguments. You don't want to get hurt, but you don't want to not get these valuable reps in. Depending on what you value more is what you would go with.
Look, you'll see a
question whether they're valuable reps when you're up so much, but like
no, listen.
But I don't disagree.
Be confrontational. Let's hear it. I agree. Yeah, there is an argument to be made if it's valuable, Tony. That's true.
Right. Not even if I agree with you that the workout and the reps is important. I think when you're up 20, they're not taking the game as seriously. We saw, especially like last year, they were going for the highlight reel almost the entire time when they were up that much. We don't see them running the motion offense like through all the motions and through all the actions. So, but assuming that was the case, then I do think that you make a very valid point, and that is there are those two sides.
Right. And I think you will see a totally new makeshift starting on Tuesday, because word has it Max will be back. And with Max being back, that means more rotation, and that means more rest for players.
I think Max being back is huge because he gives you a third ball handler.
And the defense.
Besides Zevi and Adi, and it gives you another shooter, and it gives you another stud.
And a good on-ball defender.
And a good on-ball defender. And he's elite going downhill. He's Ofek-esque.
We saw it early in that layup. I think he went in with the right hand finish. It was a breath of fresh air early in the first game, and then he was gone.
I played with him a lot this summer. Him, his brother, Zavi. I played with a lot of these guys, and what stood out to me on Zakheim was his elite level of athleticism and skill going down a hill. And I had not seen that on a player other than Ofek. And Ofek needed to be cutting, right? And Zakheim or rip through baseline. No one could really stop Ofek doing that unless you planted a 7-footer there and had him sit there before Ofek took off. And I think Zakheim's at that level of finishing or close to it. So be interested to see what he brings to the table. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, the thing is, do we think
you remind me of Roy's dunk for a second? Can we talk about this?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that was just, I didn't think we were going to see a dunk this year.
I was totally thinking the same thing. I was like,
first off, can we call
I
him
haven't seen any pregame warm-ups, though.
It was incredible. It was on someone. I want to call him the rim-rattling redhead. It was incredible.
It was so nice. I thought he was going in for the layup, and then it kind of looked, he was gearing up for it, and he just went and threw it down on him.
Flashbacks to last season.
It was redhead, and it was a rim-rattling redhead redemption, man. It was a slam dunk. It was gorgeous. Kudos to Roy. The second one.
I just want to touch up on one thing quick. Yeah. I just want to touch up on one thing quickly regarding Zevi and Max once Max is back. Do we think Zevi's shot count will go down dramatically or not so much?
No, because he's getting shots within the offense, and I also think that they're going to continue on I think it'll make things, if it's done correctly, and we don't have internal whatever, which I don't think we do. Everything I've heard has been positive. And it looks positive, is that it'll make a lot of these shots easier because you'll have another weapon that can go downhill, that can hit a three, that you have.
I think they're more complementary also, right? Like Max is more of a dribble drive finish kick out. Zevi's more of a shooter.
Yeah.
So it's complementary.
Yeah, Max is way more of a mid-range game.
Yeah, and also he's very low-key and easygoing. He's a real easygoing, low-key guy. I just think it's gonna work. I just think there's a tremendous. I think it'll make it easier. I don't think it'll take necessarily shots away, but maybe in a game like this, you needed someone else to take shots. So that might be a good thing in a game where Zevi's shooting 31 shots and all of them he needed to take, and he only scored 28 on it. I think it'll make it'll make it easier for him because the defense doesn't have to throw 3 guys on him every time he's screening, bumping him, getting so physical. Guy like Zakheim obviously helps.
No, it should be interesting. I remember seeing those guys battle it out in high school. Oh, how time flies.
Oh, maybe Ryan wants to come on. Yo, you didn't catch the game, did you? You're live on the ball, Habatim. You didn't catch the game. Do you want to come on?
No, I didn't watch the game.
All right, let me call you right back. We're about to finish up, I think.
Okay, bye.
I think we're about to finish up, right?
Yeah, we're about to wrap up.
Ryan
had a game tonight.
He did. He looked good. He had a nice pass.
Yeah, and an assist, a steal.
They need to pass to him more. I'm getting sick of this, and I'm completely impartial and don't watch any Motor City Cruise.
No,
and
I feel like you're even a little anti-Ryan.
I'm not anti-Ryan. I'm the LeVar Ball of Twitter. I get into so many unnecessary fights with people over Ryan. And it's funny, I was on an advertisement for YU and someone like started attacking me for like my pronunciation of Hanukkah. I didn't say Hanukkah. Like, they were like, oh, well, dude, he's so modern. It's like the YU's going somewhere. And I'm like, and like for me, I was like, I don't care. But if it was Ryan, if they said that about Ryan, I'd be on that Facebook like, mother, meet me in an alleyway tomorrow. Like I'd be going, I'd have a serious Twitter fight with that person. So it's just a reaction.
The fans in Cleveland really turned up for him tonight.
They did. So I had a friend, Jeremy Shava, shout out, set up with the school in Cleveland. They had the whole school was there. It was cool. A lot of Ryan chants in the stand.
All right, so Ryan called Big Brother, so I think that's our cue to go off. For Shu Cohen, Jack Terrell, the rest of our crew, I'm Oren Glickman. Tough loss tonight for the Max. They'll be back in action on
It's the Ball Habatim
Tuesday.
podcast.
This is the Ball Habatim podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one.